Jungkook admits, Jimin outshines him at Paris Fashion Week Paris, October 2025. What does it take for one global superstar to openly acknowledge being eclipsed by another, especially when both stand among the most celebrated figures of their generation? What does it mean when Jungkook, the golden magne of BTS, humbly admits that Jimin, his bandmate and brother in artistry, stole the entire spotlight at Paris Fashion Week? In a world where pride often rules the entertainment industry, Jungkook's confession has shaken fans and media alike, adding an emotional twist to a week already overflowing with spectacle, couture, and cultural history. The headline that dominated American and Korean outlets alike, Jungkook admits, Jimin outshines him at Paris Fashion Week, did not emerge from rumor or fan speculation. It was sparked by Jungkook's own words during a surprise Weverse Live, streamed just hours after Dior's Women SS26 showcase. His tone was calm but sincere, his smile filled with pride rather than envy. He looked directly into the camera and said the words that fans would replay endlessly. Honestly, I think Paris was Jimin stage. I was just there to cheer for him. He really outshined everything. The humility of that moment caught everyone off guard. After all, Jungkook himself had been a scene stealer in Paris before, hailed by fashion critics for his Calvin Klein campaigns and unforgettable airport looks. Yet here he was, acknowledging that Dior's spotlight belonged to Jimin, not him. American outlets like People and Variety framed it as a rare glimpse of humility in an industry often driven by competition. The Los Angeles Times went further, describing Jungkook's statement as a testament to the brotherhood that fuels BTS's legacy, even beyond the boundaries of music. But what was it about Jimin's presence that made Jungkook and the world see him as the undeniable star of Paris? Critics point to the aura he carried into Dior's SS26 show, a presence described as magnetic yet untouchable, the perfect harmony of humility and power. Jimin did not need theatrics. His mere arrival shifted the air, commanding respect from fellow stars, critics, and even Dior's CEO Pietro Beccari. The moment Beccari leaned toward him with a warm gesture, it was as though the brand itself had placed a crown on his head. Jungkook's words, however, did more than celebrate Jimin. They revealed something deeper about their relationship. For years, fans have adored the bond between the two, playful, brotherly, supportive, and sometimes tinged with unspoken rivalry. But in this moment, rivalry melted into reverence. Jungkook did not speak as a fellow idol comparing achievements. He spoke as someone who knew the depth of Jimin's journey, the struggles, the discipline, the sacrifices, and felt proud to see the world finally recognize what he had always known. Fans across social media erupted with emotion. Hashtags like #Jimin outshines Paris and #Jungkook proud of Jimin trended simultaneously, as armies celebrated not just Jimin's triumph, but Jungkook's sincerity. TikTok edits paired Jungkook's live confession with clips of Jimin stepping into Dior's front row, creating a narrative of humility and glory that melted millions of hearts. "This isn't just fashion," one fan tweeted. "This is family, love, and brotherhood playing out on the global stage." American cultural critics saw the moment as symbolic of something larger. In a commentary on CNN Style, a writer reflected, "Jimin represents the artistry of fashion, and Jungkook represents the humility of acknowledging greatness. Together, they show the world what true influence looks like, less about ego, more about legacy." And so, Paris Fashion Week was no longer just about couture, fabrics, or celebrity sightings. It became the stage for a new kind of story, one of admiration, humility, and brotherhood that transcended fashion. Jimin may have worn Dior, but through Jungkook's confession, the world realized that what truly shone brightest was the bond between two artists who continue to redefine what it means to share the spotlight. As the headlines reverberated and the world replayed Jungkook's humble admission, one question burned brighter than the Eiffel Tower's lights that night. If Jimin can outshine Paris, and Jungkook can so graciously admit it, what greater heights await the two when they step back on the stage? Together, not as individuals, But as BTS, Paris was still buzzing with the afterglow of Dior's SS26 show when Jungkook's quiet confession traveled across oceans and ignited a firestorm of conversation. What began as a heartfelt remark in a late-night Weverse Live quickly transformed into one of the most emotional storylines of Fashion Week. Journalists in New York, Los Angeles, and London stopped reporting solely on couture looks and runway reviews. Instead, they began dissecting the deeper meaning of Jungkook's words. Paris was Jimin's stage. He really outshined everything. For many American media outlets, the remark marked a rare moment of vulnerability and humility from a figure whose own star power is indisputable. Here was Jungkook, Calvin Klein's global face, a singer whose solo tracks dominate Spotify charts, a performer beloved for his perfectionism, choosing to place Jimin above himself. This wasn't about insecurity, wrote the Washington Post. It was about reverence. It was about witnessing brilliance and having the courage to admit it. The emotional weight of the statement resonated because it shattered the conventional narrative of competition. In an industry where headlines often pit artists against each other, Jungkook chose unity over rivalry. His pride in Jimin became a headline as powerful as Jimin's own triumph at Dior. It was not about losing the spotlight. It was about passing it willingly, joyfully, to a brother he has admired for years. Fans knew this bond well, but to see it acknowledged so openly in front of the world gave it new depth. American fashion critics noted the poetry of timing. At the very moment when Jimin stood as Dior's crown jewel, Jungkook was humbling himself in a way that only magnified Jimin's glow. Rather than creating contrast, it created harmony, an echo of what BTS has always stood for: 7 individuals who shine brightest when they acknowledge each other's light. Rolling Stone called it a masterclass in humility, while Vogue US dubbed it the moment that reminded the fashion world what authenticity looks like. On social media, fans pieced together a narrative that felt cinematic. Edits juxtaposed Dior's spotlight on Jimin with Jungkook's soft-spoken words, creating a storyline of triumph and brotherhood that moved viewers to tears. One viral TikTok caption read, "When the golden magne bows to the angel of Dior, it's not defeat, it's love." Millions of likes followed. The hashtag soared. The fandom had found a story that was bigger than fashion. It was about loyalty, admiration, and the kind of humility that makes greatness unforgettable. But perhaps the most striking reaction came from cultural commentators in the US, who interpreted Jungkook's humility as a new template for global influence. In a panel discussion on CNN Style, one critic observed, "This is the evolution of celebrity. It's not just about dominance, it's about how you handle being outshined." Jungkook's words gave Jimin's victory even more power because it came wrapped in love, not rivalry. Meanwhile, whispers swirled around Paris's fashion circles. Some insiders suggested that Dior executives had also taken note of Jungkook's statement. "It speaks volumes," one unnamed source told an American fashion reporter. "If Dior crowns Jimin, they do so with the blessing of his bandmate." That kind of harmony only strengthens the brand's global image. Suddenly, Jungkook's humility was not only an emotional headline but also a potential piece of Dior's narrative, a subplot that elevated Jimin's role even further.